Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel, and today I am back with another video. And this is part 6 to What If Naruto Was the 10 Tails Jinchuriki. And guys, before we start off, I have a small thing to say. After this one, I plan to make a What If where Naruto and Itachi are teammates, and Naruto becomes the Jonin Sensei for Team 7, and stuff like that happen. It's going to start when Naruto's a child, of course, and it's going to be like his time to through academy with Itachi, and afterwards he's going to have a sister, and she's going to be Naruko or Mako or something. You guys can suggest the name, but anyways, his sister will be the Nine Tails Jinchuriki and all that stuff. And we're gonna see how everything progresses from there. And Naruto will be stupidly broken in all of my what ifs if you can't tell by now. And he is not going to be surpassed by his sister. I'm telling you. Like maybe he will in the six path sage mode, but then in the like when she's just using the KCM2 mode, he's going to be stronger. Anyways, enough with that. All I need from you guys for that is a suggestion for the title of that what if, and a name for Naruto's sister. And also, guys, I'll be doing one of the what ifs that you guys suggested after that. And in the near future, I do plan to actually make a crossover what if. Like you see, I've actually read a few nice fanfics where Naruto is, transported into the Percy Jackson universe after the war, or after he died or something like that. So, and like he's like the most broken character there, and he basically like amazes everyone with his skills. It's actually pretty like cool and kind of funny as well. So, it really intrigues me. So you guys can let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. It's something I really want to do. So I hope you guys take that into account. But anyways, enough with that. Let's get started with this part. So we left off with the preliminaries ending, and the 1 month break starts. And we're going to continue from there. And like before we get started with the actual content, I know Tsuki knows like everything that's happening around the world, but I'm going to give like a few limitations to what she can actually tell Naruto. So she can only tell Naruto about like something that happened in the world if it like it's too important to ignore or something like that. Like, I hope you get what I mean. But anyways, she can also like tell him about new techniques and stuff like that. And what she can't tell him is what people are thinking. Like, if people think something and they don't say it out loud, she won't be able to tell him what they're thinking about. Also, they she won't tell him like insignificant things, like for example, like what his friends are up to, or something like that, right? Because if she like told him pretty much everything, then it would pretty much make his life like really boring. So anyways, I'm just going to put those limitations on Tsuki. So then, with all that said, let's get straight into this part. So in the 1 month break, Naruto doesn't really need to train, but then he doesn't want to waste his time. He is absolutely fine with Kakashi training Sasuke, because Kakashi can't really train him in anything. So see, he actually decided to just train his siblings so that they'd be prepared for the invasion. He doesn't tell his siblings about the invasion, but then he actually tells his parents. And Minato and Kushina definitely do agree, because that sounds like a very Orochimaru like thing to do. And also, suddenly the sound village that no one heard about has sprung up. And uh, you know uh, after seeing Zaku's arms, which are augmented with those pipes, uh, uh, Minato knew that he was artificially fitted with those pipes, and that sounds like something that Orochimaru would do. So he theorized that the Sound Village must be Orochimaru's village, and Naruto did confirm that. And Minato didn't fully trust the Jubi, and by that, he basically takes what it says with a pinch of salt, because you never know, right? When someone is actually lying about something. So of course he obviously took what the Jubi said into account, but then he didn't completely take her word for it. And with Ibiki and the other proctors also, uh, knowing about Kabuto's suspicious behavior and informing Minato of it, Minato had no doubt that what the Jubi was saying was right, or at least to a certain extent it would be. At first, Minato was kind of uh, wanting to stop the Chunin exams, but then Naruto told him that that might cause Orochimaru to accelerate his plans, and it was best if they just let the Chunin exams continue, and give Orochimaru a surprise counterattack when he finally attacks. So yeah, and Naruto went home, and Kushina asked Naruto whether he would like her to help him train, especially with sealing jutsus, because Naruto is still not fully mastered in that area. And Naruto agreed, but then he told her that he didn't want to go too heavy on the training with her, because he wanted to save some time for developing the flying Raijin further. And Kushina was really interested in this, and Naruto was told her that he had an idea to develop the flying Raijin even further. And Kushina was like, "You baka, you have shadow clones to do that." And Naruto smacked himself in the head for his momentary moment of stupidity. And Kushina was like, I'm good with seals too, right? You can tell me what idea you have about about fully completing the flying Raijin." Naruto was like, maybe I can create a water jutsu that can cause it to rain, and the rain droplets would have flying Raijin markings embedded in them. And Kushina was like, "Naruto, that's a brilliant idea. Your father actually thought of it as well, but then he couldn't do it because he doesn't have a water affinity. He only has wind, lightning, and fire." And Naruto was like, so he already thought about it. That's a bit disappointing. And Kushina was like, "How so?" And Naruto was like, "I wanted this to be my original creation." And Kushina laughed and patted him on the back, and she was like, "You have many original creations, it's fine." And Naruto was like, "I guess that's true." And Kushina just smirked, and she was like, "Alright then, now let's start your Fuinjutsu training. Or should I say continue? And we'll put Kenjutsu training in the regimen as well." And Naruto nodded, and so anyways, they started their training. And a few days later, Naruto wanted to visit the hot tub just to relax a little bit after an intense training session. And it wasn't that intense for him because he has Uzumaki stamina plus Jubi powers, but all the same he still wanted to relax a bit. So he did go to the hot springs, and he saw a tall man with shaggy white hair peeking onto the women's side of the bath, the hot tub, or what do you call it? Hot springs. Sorry if I said hot tub. Forgive me. It's hot springs. But anyways, Naruto was like, "That pervert Jiraiya. Why doesn't this surprise me?" And Tsuki was like, "Maybe you should teach him a lesson." And Naruto was like, "I will. Remember that jutsu that I created after getting inspiration from Kakashi Sensei." And Tsuki was like, "You don't mean?" And Naruto was like, "Looks like we finally have a test subject for that." And then he sneaked up behind Jiraiya using his stealth skills, and he also cut off his like basically suppressed his chakra so that Jiraiya wouldn't sense him, because he knew that Jiraiya is a sensory type ninja, and he positioned his fingers near Jiraiya's butthole, and uh, he basically created a little orb of chakra at the tip, and he basically like compressed the chakra in it so fast, like so hard that it finally popped, and Jiraiya was like, ouch, and then he went flying into the women's side, and his pants and underwear were ripped like right at his butthole, and that was on full view for the women, the disgusted women in the women's side of the hot springs to see, and they started beating the shit out of him until they all left, and then Naruto approached the now black and blue man, like he was beaten black and blue, and he was like, serves you right, pervert. And Jiraiya, he was like unmoving on the ground, giving a slight twitch here and there, and he was like, and Naruto was like, looks like this woman really did a number on you, huh? And Jiraiya just started crying anime tears, and Naruto just sighed, and he was like, summoning jutsu, king of hell, and he summoned the king of hell, and he threw Jiraiya inside, and when he was back out, he was back to normal, except there was a patch of cloth missing, where like when it should have been covering his anus, and Jiraiya was like, you're the one who used that technique on me?" And Naruto was like, "What technique?" And Jiraiya was like, "The one that blew apart my butthole." And Naruto was like, "You were asking for it, Jiraiya." And Jiraiya was like, You know me?" And Naruto was like, "Of course I know you." Jiraiya, the supposed gallant Toad Sage of Mount Miyoboku, and known across the elemental nations as the biggest pervert in all of the elemental nations. And Jiraiya smirked in satisfaction, and he was like, "That's right, I'm a super pervert." And Naruto just smacked his head, and Jiraiya was like, "Give me a second, kid." And Naruto was like, "Sure, take your time, cover up." And Jiraiya just scowled at Naruto, and he basically went into a changing room and changed into a fresh pair of pants, and Jiraiya was like, "And who might you be?" And the reason that Jiraiya doesn't know that it's Naruto is because Naruto has like really pale skin and a white hair, so he doesn't look like he has Minato's hair color, and he also has Kushina's purple eyes, like violet eyes. So he doesn't have Minato's eyes, so those don't remind Jiraiya of Minato. And Jiraiya doesn't know Kushina as well as he does Minato. So Naruto, he doesn't like immediately recognize Naruto. So anyways, Naruto responded that he's Naruto, and Jiraiya was like, "You're Naruto?" And Naruto was like, "Yeah, what of it?" And Jiraiya seemed really scared, and Naruto was like, "I can sense emotions, Jiraiya. What is it? Why are you so scared?" And Jiraiya was like, "Your eyes." And Naruto was like, "What's wrong with them?" And Jiraiya was like, "The Rinne Sharingan." And Naruto was like, "How do you know I have the Rinne Sharingan?" And Jiraiya was like, "The toads." And Naruto was like, "Ah, that's right, of course, you're the Toad Sage. How could I forget?" And Jiraiya was like, "Just out of curiosity, you're not going to use those eyes, are you?" And Naruto was like, "You mean these?" And he activated his Rinne Sharingan, which came in both eyes, and it pretty much scared Jiraiya shitless. But Naruto was just doing that to mess with him, and Jiraiya was like, "Stop it, Naruto!" And Naruto was like, "Relax, Jiraiya. I will use them, but not for the Infinite Tsukiyomi." And Jiraiya was like, "What will you use them for?" And Naruto was like, if I ever need them, I'll use them, of course. And Jiraiya seemed satisfied with that answer, and he just took a deep breath and he got back up. And he was like, thank God. And he was like, anyways, where do you learn that technique that you used on me? And Naruto was like, you mean this? And then he basically put his fingers in the tiger hand seal, and a small um, a ball of chakra formed, like on top of his fingers, like where in the direction where his fingers are pointing. And Jiraiya was like, that looks like. And Naruto was like, yes, Jiraiya, it was inspired by the Rasengan. It is a mini version, but it has many uses. And Jiraiya was like what? And Naruto was like, first of all, I can use it only using one hand, making it perfect to threaten an enemy, similar to the Hozuki clan's water bullet jutsu. And I can pack enough chakra into this to make a person's head explode if I shoot it at them. And Jiraiya was absolutely shocked by seeing such a uh, useful jutsu, and it should technically be an S rank jutsu since Rasengan is A rank, and this was a lot more precise than the Rasengan, and it was also a lot more deadly because the damage is very like pressurized compared to the Rasengan. And Naruto actually added that he could shoot it like a bullet as well, and it could travel as fast as a shuriken that's charged with lightning, and that's thrown by a skilled Uchiha. And Jiraiya was absolutely shocked at this, and he was like, "What's the name of that technique?" And Naruto was like, maybe I'll call it Rasendan, for spiraling bullet," and meaning spiraling bullet. And Jiraiya was like, a fitting name. And Jiraiya was like, please teach it to me. And Naruto was like, very well, but I expect something in return. And Jiraiya was like, what's that? Naruto, he was like, I want you to give me the toad summoning contract. And I also want you to teach me toad oil techniques and all the other toad related techniques you know. I also want you to teach me the technique where you can turn your hair into a shield or fire your hair like needles or senbon. And Jiraiya was like, a bit excessive for just one jutsu, don't you think? And Naruto was like, I'll also teach you the next level of the Rasengan where you can add a chakra nature to it. And Jiraiya was like, what, you figured out how to do that? And Naruto was like, yes, I can do it with any element, even my Kekkei. And Jiraiya was like, fine, if you teach me the Rasendan and all the elemental Rasengans pertaining to my elements, then I'll teach you, then I'll give you what you ask for. And Naruto was like, done. And they shook hands on it. And the next month they spent, you know, with Naruto and Jiraiya both making good on their deal, on their ends of the deal. And Kushina was teaching Fuinjutsu and helping him perfect his skill in Kenjutsu. And Jiraiya was also helping Naruto iron out any flaws in his Taijutsu and teaching him the Toad style of Taijutsu. And Naruto also helped Menma and Mako integrate the QB's chakra into themselves. And by the way, the seal was already loosened by Naruto because he made that deal with Kurama to give Menma and Mako a chance. And Kurama didn't really see any issues with Menma and Mako, so he was happy to share his chakra with them. So, anyways, after the 1 month break, Naruto learned all the toad oil techniques from Jiraiya, like toad oil bullets or toad oil bombs. He also learned how to use the dark swarm jutsu, and he learned how to use the toad stomach summoning jutsu. And he even learned how to use the hair needle senbon and the hair shield. And the reason why he didn't know how to use the hair senbon or hair shield is because he didn't learn about any yin and yang release techniques from who was it, Tsuki. So since he um, like the hair jutsus that Jiraiya uses are they use yang release. Naruto didn't learn how to do that, and now after his training with Jiraiya, he learned, and he also ironed out any flaws in his kenjutsu and his taijutsu. His ceiling wasn't still wasn't like all the way there yet, but then he was getting up there. He was like almost at the level of his parents, and he also managed to perfect the the flying Raijin that he was creating, like the next level of the flying Raijin. And to help himself use the uh, hair jutsus better, he actually grew his hair long, and he had like a Madara type of hairstyle now, except instead of black hair, he had white hair. And by the way, guys, there are no whiskers on Naruto's face because Naruto doesn't have the QB sealed in him. He has a Jubi, so he doesn't have whiskers. Instead, Menma and Mako have whiskers. So, anyways, with Menma and Mako's training, uh, Jiraiya gave both of them the Toad summoning contract, and Naruto taught them several new ninjutsus in their respective elements. And with both Jiraiya and Naruto's help, they managed to iron out any flaws in the taijutsu. And Menma also unlocked his Uzumaki chains, like the adamantine chains, and Mako, she unlocked. She basically learned the flying Raijin jutsu, like not the fourth Hokage's version or Naruto's version. She learned the second Hokage's version, and Menma could only make up to 4 chains, no more than that. So yeah, and with Sasuke's training, Kakashi couldn't really teach him any ninjutsus because his arsenal in fire techniques wasn't that good, and Sasuke already learned every version of the Chidori with Naruto's training, and Kakashi couldn't really teach him anything with the Chidori. So instead, he actually gave Sasuke a sword, and he taught him how to infuse the sword with fire chakra and wind chakra. Sorry, not wind, fire and lightning chakra. Like he could do it with fire and with lightning. So yeah, and Kakashi also taught Sasuke like how to move a lot faster, and he helped him iron out the flaws in his taijutsu. And he also took joint lessons from Kushina with Naruto on how to use his sword. So yeah, all in all, Sasuke did become pretty strong, and yeah, he did create the Kirin Jutsu. And Hinata also trained with Naruto and his friends from time to time, but then she isn't really important in the Chunin exams because she lost. So I'm not going to talk about her improvements. So, anyways, this is the end of the 1 month break, and now we'll start with the final rounds. Alright, so since everyone is already aware of the invasion, Orochimaru, Minato already knows that Orochimaru is disguised as the, who do you call it? The Kazekage. So, and Naruto obviously did tell him this, and he told him that the Kazekage was dead, and, you know, Minato was ready, and he even had Hiruzen watching with him for the final rounds because it was a perfectly believable excuse that both the Hokages want to watch and judge the Chunin exam finals. But the real reason that Hiruzen was also there was because even though Minato was like damn OP because of his flying Raijin, he just wanted to be there as backup in case Minato needs it. And Orochimaru did curse his luck because both the Hokages were there, and it would be much harder to fight them both. But then he did believe that his Edo Tenseis would suffice, so he didn't like try to call off the invasion or anything. So, anyways, also because they already knew about the invasion, Hayate doesn't die because he doesn't go to investigate. So Hayate is still the proctor for the finals. So, anyways, Hayate calls the participants, and it turns out that two of them are missing, and one of them is Sasuke, and the second one is Naruto. and so basically, he was like, all right, it seems we are missing two participants. So the first match is Neji Hyuga versus Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Will both participants come to the arena, and the rest of the participants can leave to the stands? And Neji came, but Naruto was nowhere to be seen. And Hayate was like, if Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze doesn't show up, he will be disqualified. But then suddenly, orange lightning started, appearing in the sky, and then this basically like captured everyone's attention. And suddenly, like three massive bolts of lightning connected on a spot in the stadium, and once that happened, it showed Naruto, and Kakashi was like, "Oh boy, seems he's one for an entrance," and basically he meant that Naruto's kind of like the type who likes to make an entrance, and Neji also like smirked at Naruto's entrance. Just like smirked in appreciation, and anyways, Hayate, like once he got over you know the shock of how Naruto entered, he started the match, and Neji was like, "You may be strong, Uzumaki, but fate has already declared me as the winner, so you might as well give up." And Naruto just smirked at him, and he was like, he did some hand signs, and he was like, "Descending heavens." And as he said that, a huge meteorite appeared in the sky, and it wasn't as big as Madara's, because Naruto didn't want to destroy the entire village. So it was just like as big as the arena, and Neji was like, he was looking at that and thinking, what the fuck? And Naruto was like, tell fate to save you from this, Neji. And Neji was like, "You fool! You're going to get yourself killed too." And Naruto was like, "I don't think so." And he brought his palm up, and he made a fist, and and basically the meteor like it broke into many chunks of rocks flying at a really fast pace, and each rock was about the size of a person, and he controlled each other movement so that you know they fall around him, and he doesn't get in the crossfire. And as the pieces approached, and Neji, like his voice started trembling, and he was like, "No, no, you can't defeat a Hyuga. We're the strongest clan. We're the strongest in Konoha." And Naruto was like, and the rocks, like the scorching chunks of the meteorite were peppering the arena, and Neji was trying his best to dodge all of them, and but suddenly there was a particularly large chunk that he couldn't avoid, and he was like, "Shit, rotation!" And he activated his Byakugan, and he rotated as and forced as much chakra into the rotation as possible. And Hiyashi was like, "No way, he's not from the main branch. How does he know that technique?" And uh, you know, uh, and basically Neji was just smirking, thinking that his absolute defense will help him. And then Naruto was like, "That's not going to help you, Neji." And the meteorite smashed into him, and although the blow is cushioned by the rotation, the force of the rotation, it still broke several of Neji's bones. And then, but Neji was still, conscious, but he wasn't able to move. But before Hayate ended the fight, Naruto went into eye contact with Neji, and he was like, "Tsukiyomi," and he brought Neji into his little world, and Neji was like, Where am I?" And Naruto was like, "Relax, Neji. I agree with your statement. The Hyuga clan is definitely a strong clan, and their taijutsu is nothing to laugh at. But don't go kidding to yourself thinking that the Hyuga clan is the strongest clan. You limit yourselves to just taijutsu, thinking that You're invincible, and then you restrict yourself and don't learn any other techniques, thinking that any other technique than the Hyuga Gentle Fist is weak. Your clan has grown arrogant. Think about it. Have you ever seen a single S rank shinobi come from the Hyuga clan? And Neji thought about it and he was like, the Hyuga clan do keep saying they're the strongest, but then there's so many S ranks out there with not a single one being a Hyuga clan member. And Naruto was like, exactly. Even Hiyashi, the head of the clan, is only a mid A rank. And while I do agree that that is impressive, it's laughable at best if you call your clan the strongest. And Neji was, you know, basically like absolutely outraged by the amount of humiliation his clan was getting. And he was like, "What about you, loser? You're clanless. What gives you the right to talk?" And Naruto was like, "And they call you a prodigy. Haven't you ever heard of the Uzumaki clan?" And Neji was like, "Stop trying to kid yourself. Uzumakis aren't a clan." And Naruto was like, "How can he be so stupid?" And he was like, "Then what do you think the swirls behind all the Jonin vests and the one that's on the Hokage tower symbolize?" And Neji was like, "Those are just designs." And Naruto was like, "You can't be further from the truth, Neji." And he basically went to Neji and touched his forehead, and he looked into his eyes and he was like, Sharingan. And then he basically put Neji under another genjutsu where he got all the information about the Uzumaki clan, their history, who defeated them, and all that stuff. And he obviously didn't give him their techniques and stuff, because why would he want Neji knowing his clan sealing techniques? So, anyways, he did that, and then Neji was absolutely shocked that Naruto came from a clan that was so powerful that they had hundreds of S rank shinobi throughout the generations, and it took three nations working together to bring them down. And Neji also, he knew that if this was some kind of joke, and this can't be some kind of joke that Naruto's pulling, because there's way too much detail in the amount of history that Naruto is giving him about the clan. So he accepted it, and Naruto was like satisfied now, and Neji just nodded. And Naruto was like, "Let me ask you something, Neji." And Neji was like, "What?" And Naruto was like, "Why do you believe so staunchly in fate?" And basically, Neji gave his entire sob story about his dad being executed and all that stuff. And Naruto nodded in sympathy, and he was like, "Well, I am going to have a little chat with dad about this later." And Neji couldn't help but, smirk and shiver at the thought of what was going to happen to the Hokage later. And Neji knew that a man who could summon a fucking meteorite was stronger than the Hokage. And Naruto was like, "And I'm going to make sure that that ridiculous caged bird seal will be removed." And Neji was like, "How will you do that?" Naruto, he was like, "Well, the caged bird seal is just a tool that the Hyugas use to enslave people. It's just an elaborate lie that they spun that they're actually trying to protect the Byakugan. If that was really the case, then every Hyuga would have the caged bird seal. No, what they're doing is just splitting their family apart so that they could have people to enslave." And Neji was like, I know that, but it's a clan practice. How are you going to end it?" And Naruto was like, "Clan practices have certain limitations, Neji. The enslavement of people is against Konoha's laws, and that comes before any clan practice. If a clan member of a certain clan murdered each other and claimed it was a clan practice, then no matter what anyone says, those people are doing something illegal, and they will be punished." And Neji was like, "So you can remove the caged bird seal?" And Naruto's like, of course I can remove that ridiculous seal. I already know how it works and how it's designed. And Neji smiled and he was like, "Thank you, Naruto. If you do end up keeping your word, remember I will be immensely grateful for that." And Naruto just smirked and he was like, "I'm not one to go back on a promise." And both of them just smiled. And Naruto ended the Tsukiyomi, and he was like, "Summoning jutsu, Naraka path." And basically, he summoned the king of hell and he threw Neji inside. And Neji was like, "What are you doing?" And Naruto was like, "Relax." And he just threw Neji inside, and the king of hell chewed him up. And everyone except people who've already seen the king of hell in action, um, they were absolutely horrified and thought that Naruto killed Neji. And Hayate was like, "What the hell have you done?" And Naruto, and a few seconds later, a perfectly healthy Neji, who was absolutely uninjured, came out of the King of Hell's mouth. And everyone's jaws dropped. And Orochimaru was looking at this and he was like, "Ah, that damn brat has grown too powerful. I must take care of him." And he basically, whispered to one of his, ninjas who were disguised as his guards. And basically, he whispered and he was like, "Inform Danzo Shimura that we would like his assistance during the invasion in Konoha." And basically, Danzo and Orochimaru were pretty much allies. So basically, the Sound Ninja went and he informed Danzo. And Danzo, after seeing the um, after like getting the message from Orochimaru, he was like, so it looks like we will be helping Orochimaru in his little plan." And anyways, now we get back to the arena. And the next match was Sai versus Gaara. And you all know how this is gonna end, guys. Gaara is gonna absolutely demolish Sai. And you know uh, Sai is going to get fucked up. So, anyways, Hayate calls these two participants to the stadium. And but then he calls them after some Earth ninjas fix the stadium. And like, not from the Earth country, like ninjas who can use the Earth element. So. Anyways, after the arena is fixed, he calls them. And basically, he starts the match. And Gara gave Sai a smile full of bloodlust from because of the match between Naruto and Neji. When he saw Neji getting absolutely demolished like that, and the stadium, covered in marks which were because of Neji's blood. Yeah, so that made Gara pretty uh, bloodlusted, or whatever you call it. So he gave Sai that smile. And Sai was like, "Nice smile you got there, dickless." And this caused Jiraiya, Gaara's eye to twitch. And Naruto, who was in the stands with Kakashi, was like, "I think Sai has just signed his death warrant." And Kakashi couldn't help but nod. And he didn't particularly like Sai because he was working for Danzo, but then he still wouldn't let any of his comrades die. So he was preparing himself to jump in if Sai was getting fucked up too bad. Anyways, Gaara started like attacking Sai with his sand. And Sai started drawing animals. But as soon as the sand hit the animals, they dispersed. And Sai was like, "Shit, my animals are completely useless against him." And he drew a tiger on his scroll. And he was like, super beast scroll, tiger sealing method, and he sent the tiger to seal Gaara, and you know he tried to, but then Gaara immediately caught the tiger in his sand, and as Sai tried to pull away the tiger, Gaara just made a fist, and the tiger exploded into a puddle of ink. And Sai was about to forfeit before sand started covering his entire body, and he couldn't even make a sound. And just as the Jonin were about to intervene, suddenly the sand fell away, and Gaara tried to move it, but he couldn't. And then he saw, and he felt like a huge amount of chakra coming from Naruto, and it was similar to his own. And everyone were absolutely relieved, and they knew that Naruto was the one who intervened. And Hayate gave the match to Gaara because of intervention, and like he said, Gaara won because of intervention. And Gaara was like, "How did you do that?" And Naruto was like, "I simply overpowered your magnet release with my own." And Gaara was like, "How do you have magnet release?" And Naruto was like, "I'm a man of many talents, Gaara." And Gaara, he was like, "I promise you, Mother shall have your blood. She's scared of you. I shall give her your blood. Yes, I'll make Mother happy." And Naruto just smirked at him and ignored him as Gaara walked away. So yeah. Anyways, now next we have the match between Dosu and Mako. So Hayate called Dosu and Mako to the you know stadium, and he started the match. So anyways, Dosu, he was like, as if I'm gonna let a girl like you beat me. And Mako, because she is more like a person who has like Minato's personality, because she inherited more of Minato's personality. She didn't really like respond to him. She just like stood there calmly, and she waited in her stance, and she knew that Dosu had special sound abilities in his gauntlet. So she decided to use a wind style jutsu that Naruto taught her in order to counter Dosu's sound waves. So Dosu charged, and he tried to aim his gauntlet at her and shoot sound waves at him. But then Mako waved some hand signs. Made some hand signs and said, "Wind style, pressure damage." And Orochimaru, who was in the stands and in the Kage box, Kage box, and watching with Hiruzen, he was like, "Another one of Kakuzu's jutsus? How are they getting Kakuzu's jutsus here?" And by the way, guys, if you're wondering why I'm using Kakuzu's jutsus, is because his elemental jutsus are pretty OP. Like uh, even if you don't think he's very strong, like he is pretty strong, but then like first when you see him in the anime and we see his fight, it's absolutely like overwhelming, the power of his jutsus. Like Kakashi is almost drained of chakra when he had to block Kakuzu's lightning jutsu, and then the wind jutsu, like it nearly blew everyone away, and it was pretty OP. So anyways, that's why I'm using Kakuzu's jutsus here, since they're like extremely powerful jutsus of the respective elements. So yeah, Meiko said that, and Orochimaru was absolutely shocked. So this absolutely like cancelled out Dosu's sound waves, and it literally knocked him into the uh, into the wall. And as he got up, he was like, "What is that jutsu? My back hurts," and all that. And by the way, Mako knows about the sound invasion that's going to happen, and she knows that Dosu is going to play a part. And by the way, guys, Dosu's team was the team that's going to be used for sacrifices in the Edo Tensei. If you didn't notice in the original part one of Naruto, uh, like he basically Orochimaru basically used Kin and Dosu's bodies as sacrifices for reviving Hashirama and Tobirama. and the reason why Minato's failed was because Dosu was supposed to be the sacrifice of Minato, but then Dosu got himself killed by Gaara. So, anyways, sorry, who was I talking about? Mako. Yeah, Mako. She knew that Dosu was going to play a part in this invasion, and since it was Orochimaru that was leading the invasion, he would have something planned for Dosu. So she knew that she couldn't just beat him; she had to kill him, and she was alright with killing people who were enemies because her brother already did kill so many rock ninjas right in front of her. And when she asked him how he was able to kill them so mercilessly, he explained to her that sometimes shinobi do have to kill, like especially against they have to kill enemy ninjas, and as shinobis they had to use any dirty trick possible to win against their enemies. Um, but that doesn't mean he enjoys killing people, and he told her that as long as she doesn't enjoy killing, or as long as she feels remorse for killing people, she's still has her humanity. And she was like, what about you? You killed so many people without even shedding so much of a tear as remorse. And Naruto was like, even if I don't show it, I still do feel remorse for the people I kill, and I only kill people who have completely lost their humanity. So if there's a chance that my enemy can be saved and put on the right side, I will take that chance. And Mako understood all of this, and Menma was there as well, and he also kind of learned a valuable lesson from Naruto. So, anyways, this was all a flashback, by the way, if you're wondering. So back to the present with Mako's match with Dosu. As Dosu charged towards her, she coated her fist in fire chakra, and she forced so much chakra into the flames while compressing them that they actually turned blue. And she used this blue fire, enhanced taijutsu, and this basically caused the sound waves to the wavelengths to expand too much to actually cause any damage to her. So she essentially made Dosu's gauntlet pretty useless, and she started fighting him and landing punches, and they were burning him until she made her hand into like she basically opened her fist and basically put her hand in the same position Kakashi uses to stab people with Raikiri. So she basically aimed it right for his heart, and she basically penetrated through his heart and killed him by basically burning all the flesh and bone that was blocking her, and allowing her to basically puncture his heart. So this basically killed Dosu on the spot. And while the Genin were absolutely mortified by this, the Jonin basically inwardly they were appreciating her because of removing one of the threats in the sound invasion, and even the Chunin because they also knew about the invasion. And she turned to Asuma and she was like, how can she kill like that so brutally? And Asuma was like, you won't understand now, but that had to happen. And was like, what do you mean? And Asuma was like, there are too many people listening for me to tell you right now, but just stay on alert and be careful. And nodded, and basically um she was still trying to figure out why Mako killed someone in cold blood. And but then if Asuma Sensei said that it was necessary, then she believed him, but it still disturbed her. Anyways, now with that match over, the next match was and is Sasuke versus Temari, and Hayate did the same thing. He called Sasuke and Temari, and by the way, Hayate did pronounce Mako as a winner of the match between her and Dosu. So, anyways, Sasuke and Temari made it to the stage, and sorry, not the stage, the arena. Temari basically tried to goad Sasuke, and she was like, "Hey there, Uchiha! I'm going to wipe the floor with your pompous Uchiha ass." And Sasuke, he didn't really take the bait, and he just stood there calm and collected, and this confused Temari because according to the information that Orochimaru had, she like Sasuke basically was supposed to get pretty angry if he was goaded, but then like she chalked it up to her not trying hard enough to goad him. So she decided to do something that you should never do to someone like Sasuke. She basically insulted his family. She was like, this must be a cakewalk. Anyways, the Uchihas are weak. At least the other Uchihas had the balls to fight against your brother. While you were too much of a pussy to do that and you ran away. Seeing as they died, they must be weak as well. I'm pretty sure that the Hokage's family just took you in because they pity you for how much of a loot. And as she was about to finish, she suddenly was hit with something that seemed like it had the force of a freight train. And this is Sasuke's lightning enhanced punch, and Temari flew straight into the wall. And as she picked herself up, she looked up to see Sasuke staring at her with his Sharingan blazing, and he was like, "Insult me all you want, pathetic sand shinobi, but if you ever insult my family, I'll make sure it's the last thing you hear. Sorry, it's the last thing you say." So, anyways, uh, basically, Temari was absolutely frightened with the aura that Sasuke had around him, and she tried to pick up her fan, but then Sasuke beat her to it, and aiming at her fan, he was like, lightning style, false darkness. And he basically shot out a huge bolt of lightning straight at the fan, and this caused it to basically melt because of the heat of like the energy of the lightning running through it. And it basically electrocuted Temari as well because she was holding on to the metal fan. And after she recovered, she was like, "Shit, my fan!" And Sasuke was like, now let's see what you can do without your fan now, shall we?" And he started engaging her in taijutsu, and he was disappointed to see that she only had high Genin level taijutsu, and she was using kunai to fight him while he was just using his bare hands. And he basically jumped up and said, "Fire style, comet." And this was basically a new and improved version of the fireball jutsu that Sasuke made up. The original version was actually 9 hand signs instead of the fireball's usual 7, but then Sasuke managed to shorten it down to 3. And the comet had the size and the power of the fireball, except its speed was like a bolt of lightning. And this hit Temari dead on because she thought that it was just a usual Uchiha fireball jutsu, and she wasn't expecting it to come that fast. Shit, that sounded wrong. Anyways, she wasn't expecting that speed, so she basically got pretty badly burned. And she was kind of like twitching in pain, and like because of being electrocuted by the previous jutsu that Sasuke used. And Hayate was like, seeing that Temari cannot continue, I pronounced Sasuke Uchiha as the winner of this match. And everyone applauds for how Sasuke carried himself during that fight. And few of the chivalrous shinobi were kind of angry at him for uh, injuring a girl so much, but then he didn't really care about their opinions. And he went up to the stands to see his team waiting for him. And Naruto gave him a one-armed hug, and he was like, a nice one, brother. And Sasuke, his heart swelled in happiness at this. Like, he knew that he and Naruto considered each other as to be brothers, but then like to hear him say it was it basically reinforced that family connection that he has, and like not by blood, but then uh, Sasuke considered Naruto's family to be his own family in all but blood, so it basically reinforced that connection. Anyways, they both walked off to the stands. So, anyways, now it was time for the next match, and that is Shino versus Kankuro, and Hayate called these two people to the stands. But then Kankuro knew that the invasion was coming up, so he had to save his chakra in case Gaara needed him or anyone else needed him. So he told the proctor that he forfeits his match, and the proctor asked why, and Kankuro he basically told him that since Shino uses bugs as his weapon, and they eat chakra, it's basically a no-go since it would eat the strings that he uses to attach himself to his puppet, and he couldn't win in such a match, and the proctor basically agreed to his request to forfeit. So, anyways, the next match was Shikamaru versus Menma. And Menma knew that this would be a little difficult because Shikamaru is known to be like extremely smart, and even he was pretty smart, but Shikamaru's Nara intelligence kind of would dwarf his own easily. So he knew that he couldn't rely on tactics here because Shikamaru would have him beat, but then he'd have to rely on overwhelming power, and but then he should also watch out for Shikamaru's tactics, and he shouldn't miss any of the moves that Shikamaru makes. So Naruto basically patted him on his back, and he was like, "You can do it, Menma." And Menma smiled, and he went to fight Shikamaru, as Hayate called Shikamaru and Menma. And he started the fight, and Shikamaru just looked at the clouds, and he was like, "Do I really have to fight?" And Ino was like, "Shikamaru, you idiot! If you don't fight, I'm going to tell your mother." And then Shikamaru got absolutely terrified of that, and he was like, "No, no, 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 please don't." And Ino was like, "Then fight." And Shino was like, "Fine, I will fight. Women are such a drag." And he basically walked up to you know face Menma, and basically Menma knew that he shouldn't give Shikamaru a chance to think, so he made the first move, and he basically was about to punch Shikamaru, but then Shikamaru dodged and threw a bunch of smoke bombs and went near the edge of the stadium. And Menma used the sensory abilities that he had as an Uzumaki, and because of the QB's chakra, and he could feel Shikamaru molding chakra, and he knew that it would be a shadow possession. So he put his hands into a hand sign, and he said, Earth style, hiding like a mole technique. And he basically went underground, and he made his way to where he felt Shikamaru's presence. And Shikamaru tried to grasp him with his shadow, but then he couldn't find him anywhere. Then he was like, he must be underground. And he basically looked on the ground for any kind of movement, and suddenly saw it right beneath his feet, and he jumped away as Menma's hand flew into the air, and like he basically was doing an uppercut, but then he was emerging from the ground, and Shikamaru was like, "Thank God I dodged that." And he threw a kunai to Menma, but slightly to the left, so that Menma would jump towards the right. And he had a circle made of his shadow possession jutsu waiting for Menma on the right. But then instead of jumping to the right, Menma actually used water style raging waves to push the kunai back, and then he jumped away. and the kunai exploded in a spot where Shikamaru was near, and Shikamaru didn't have time to like fully dodge because he was trying to mold chakra into the shadow possession, and just as Shikamaru jumped away, the kunai exploded, and since Shikamaru was able to move a little bit, he didn't get as much damage as he would if he faced the kunai point blank, but then he was still in the range of the explosion, so he did get damaged a bit, and he basically landed a few paces away on the ground, like on his butt, and he slowly got up, nursing his lower back, and he looked for Menma, but he couldn't find him anywhere. And as he was looking around, he basically heard a presence from who was standing on the wall of the stadium, and just as he turned to look, he heard lightning style, lightning shot. And at the speed of the bullet, Menma shot towards him, and lightning was arcing around his legs. And as he was about to hit Shikamaru, he made a Rasengan in one hand, and he basically made it a lot smaller and weaker so that he wouldn't hurt Shikamaru too much or put him in a critical condition. So basically, Shikamaru couldn't dodge this in time, and he couldn't manipulate the shadows to go away from the ground yet. And since Menma wasn't on the ground, he couldn't do anything to him. So Shikamaru was just about to pull out a kunai, but then Menma's Rasengan made contact with Shikamaru's shoulder, and this made Shikamaru fly into the wall and hit his head, making him lose consciousness. And Hayate said that since Shikamaru was no longer able to continue, Menma Uzumaki Namikaze was the winner of the match. And then the Hokage made an announcement, and he was like, and by Hokage I mean Minato. He was like, well, we give the winners of the final rounds of the Chunin exams 1 hour to rest, heal their wounds, and replenish their chakra before the second round of the final starts. And as an extra rule, you all will not be knowing your opponents prior to the next round. Many times in missions, a shinobi face opponents that they don't expect to meet, and and you, prospective chunin, should be prepared for situations like that. Now I know that you faced something similar in the in the preliminary round of the chunin exams, but that round was to eliminate the weak links of each team, the people who didn't contribute in the team events in the chunin exams, such as the first and second parts of the chunin exams. And in order to eliminate those people, the Chunin exams, a preliminary round was conducted. Now, since only the strongest participants are left, it has to be this way in order to prepare you for becoming Chunin. And all the winners nodded and left to replenish their chakra and all that stuff. So, anyways, while this was happening, Orochimaru also had a lot on his mind because Naruto and his family were ruining all of his plans. Like they're extremely strong, and he thought that he could somehow influence Sasuke to become, you know, jealous of Naruto's power and come to him in order to gain the power to defeat his brother and betray the village. But seeing the bond that Sasuke shared with Naruto, it kind of was uh, kind of looking hopeless for him, and he knew that Sasuke would have to be influenced a little more before he could become his potential body. So he planned to send the Sound Four after a while, in order to plant the seed of doubt in Sasuke's mind, and finally, as he fosters it and grows his hatred, he would eventually seek him out. So, anyways, Orochimaru made some last minute preparations for the invasion, and he stationed the people outside the village to summon the giant snakes. And Kabuto quickly got into his Anbu mask and pretended to be a healer in the Anbu. And yeah, so now we move on to the final rounds. So, anyways, the pairings for the finals are um, Naruto versus Gaara, Sasuke versus uh, Shino, and Menma versus Mako. and the order is Sasuke versus Shino, Menma versus Mako, Naruto versus Gaara. So they all were rested up and they were ready to start. And the first match was Sasuke versus Shino, and you all know how this is gonna go, guys. Um, Shino is kind of like useless compared to Sasuke, and don't get me, I like the character. Don't get me wrong, I like the character a lot, and you know, uh, he's pretty cool. But then, uh, power levels nothing compared to Sasuke. So Shino, sorry, Hayate, he um, starts the match, and Sasuke first like stands there and doesn't move, and Shino also does the same, but then Sasuke charges towards him, and Shino he um, tries to use his bugs to ward off Sasuke, but Sasuke makes a few hand signs and says, Chidori Senbon. And he basically waves his hand, which is covered with lightning, and multiple lightning Senbon shoot out at the bugs, and the bugs are all fried. And then after this, Shino he raises his hand and says, Proctor, I forfeit this match. It was a bad matchup of our abilities, and I don't want to lose any more bugs from my hive. And Hayate understands and says that Sasuke is the winner, and that match was over fast enough. And then the next match was Menma versus Mako, and this is going to be a really close one. So, anyways, Menma and Mako are both called to the arena, and Menma appeared in a bolt of red lightning, which Naruto taught to him, and Mako appeared in blue fire, a body flicker of blue fire, and all the all the people who were judging, like all the feudal lords, and both Minato Hiruzen and Orochimaru, who was disguised as a Kazekage, were all very impressed with this entrance. And Minato was like, Naruto, just how much did you teach them? And anyways, the proctor starts the match, and Menma and Mako look at each other and smile, and they both get into stances for a bout of taijutsu, and then suddenly they both charge at each other, and they start punching, kicking, moving around like so fast that only the top jonin like Kakashi, Asuma, and Gai were able to actually follow their movements. Of course, other than the Kages and Orochimaru, and obviously Jiraiya. So yeah, and of course Naruto as well, because he was the one who trained them. So, anyways, um, they both like started like Menma. He feinted a right hook, but then when Mako dodged, he swung his left knee to hit her, but then she was able to predict that, so she put her hands on Menma's knee and did a back handspring to back away, and Menma tried going for a punch again, but then Mako just leaned back and lifted one of her feet off the ground to kick Menma, and this hit Menma in the chest, and Menma flew into landed on the ground and in a cloud of smoke, and when she looked where Menma was, she couldn't see him. But then suddenly, two hands came from the ground and grabbed her, grabbed both of her ankles and started pulling her on the ground into the ground. But then, when Menma came out of the ground, he only saw that he buried a log, and Mako was right behind him. And she tried to kick Menma, and it landed, but then Menma poofed and disappeared in a bunch of smoke. And this told Mako that this was a shadow clone, and Menma came behind her and tried to punch her, but it turned out to be a blue fire clone, and this burned Menma's fist. And meanwhile, the real Mako was fighting another Menma, and when one of her hits landed, Menma exploded into a bunch of lightning, electrocuting Mako, and this was red lightning, and uh, both of them were pretty worn out, and they basically backed away from each other and started breathing a little heavily, and then um, and Menma was like, "Hey Mako, what do you say we step up the game a bit?" And Mako was like, "Couldn't agree more, brother." And Menma's hands were encased in red lightning, and Mako's hands were encased in blue fire, and everyone was absolutely in awe of the skill of these two genin, and thought that they shouldn't even be chunin, they should be jonin, and they're wondering what they're still doing in a genin team, and Menma and Mako flew, you know, towards each other again, and they started engaging in another bout of taijutsu. And after about another minute, they both emerged from uh, uh, the bout of taijutsu with Menma having a bunch of burns all over his body, and Mako uh, also having like lightning scars, and occasionally a spark of lightning flew around her skin, and she was twitching, and then they both decided to start using ninjutsu against each other. Water style, water dragon jutsu, lightning style, electromagnetic murder. And the result of this was a huge dark blue dragon which was charging with red electricity. And Mako replied to this by making a shadow clone, and one shadow clone um, said fire style, majestic destroyer flame. The other shadow clone was like wind style, tornado of blades, and basically these two techniques merged to create a massive tornado that almost covered the entire stadium, uh, which was burning, like which was made of fire and wind, and it was causing many cuts in the many parts of the stadium to get cut with the force of with the wind blades, and this made its way to Menma's massive water dragon, and as these made their way to each other, and collided, there's a massive explosion that created a huge earthquake, causing huge fissures to appear all over the stadium, and Menma and Mako were sent flying back into the to the walls, to opposite walls on the stadium, and they both hit their backs and crashed hard, and they fell down, and they were struggling to get up, and uh, both were breathing extremely heavily right now, and then and suddenly Mako got an idea, and she channeled chakra into her own body, and outside came multiple adamantine chains. There were about like six of them, and Mako was like, "Looks like you lose, brother. I'm sure you don't have a trump card like this." And Menma was like, "I have my own techniques as well, sister." And he pulled out a three-pronged kunai, and Mako was like, "What is that?" And Menma was like, "You guessed right, sister." And he threw the kunai, and he was like, "Kunai shadow clone jutsu," and it created 200 kunai that littered themselves all over the stadium, and suddenly Menma started jumping kunai, and the adamantine chains were fast enough to react whenever Menma was appearing, but then as soon as they were about to hit, Menma would flash away, and until he landed a punch on Mako, and just as he punched her in the jaw, one of her adamantine chains cut into his bicep, and like it literally pierced through, and both of them went flying back, and afterwards Menma was like, "What do you say, sister? How about we use the finishing move now?" And Mako was like, "Couldn't agree more." And Suddenly in Mako's hands there was like Mako formed a Rasengan and started adding wind chakra through to it, and until it became a Rasen Shuriken. And Menma made did the same thing, except instead of adding wind he added water, and the Rasengan increased in size and had two rings around it, kind of like Boruto's Wind-style Rasengan, except it was a lot bigger. And also the rings, there are two rings which kind of were perpendicular, if you know what I mean. Like where they intersected, they made a plus sign. And Mako, and everyone was absolutely amazed that that the Hokage's kids completed the Rasengan, and even Minato was absolutely amazed because he never really asked them how their training was going. Like he did ask them, but then he didn't really get the details, and he didn't know that uh, this was the level at which they were training, and he was very proud that they completed his jutsu. So, anyways, Mako was like wind style, Rasen Shuriken, and Menma was like water style, whirling Rasen torrents. And by the way, guys, I found out that the part Rasen actually means spiraling. So yeah, I didn't know that till now. But then, anyways, it kind of means wind style spiraling shuriken and water style whirling spiraling torrents. And yeah, so anyways, they threw these two jutsus at each other, and the resulting explosion that was caused by the two jutsus hitting each other. I mean, like before the two jutsus met, Minato was like, "All the shinobi you can use earth release, make an earth wall, and Hayate hide somewhere." And Hayate didn't need to be asked twice, and he hid. And Kakashi and a bunch of other shinobi he could use earth release created an earth wall to protect the people in the stadium. And the explosion caused several cuts to appear all over the stadium, and Mako was washed away by a huge cyclone that came around her. And like she was literally like spinning in the cyclone, and she crashed into the wall. And Menma was encased in the dome of wind, and several cuts started appearing all over his skin, and he was thrown onto the wall as well. And the entire stadium was flooded with water and had several cuts and fissures running all over it. And the earth walls that were made were all torn down as well. And Menma and Mako were both seen unconscious on opposite ends of the stadium. And Mako had several bruises all over her body, and water had went into her lungs as well. And Mako had several cuts all over his body, and was heavily bleeding. And Minato, seeing this, was like, "Shit! I should have stopped the match." And he was like, "Medics on the stadium immediately! Take Menma and Mako to the hospital." And the medics didn't hesitate, and they took them both to the hospital. And Hayate emerged from where he was hiding underground, and using the hiding like a mole technique. And he declared that since Menma and Mako essentially knocked each other out, it was a double knockout, and neither of them would pass to the next round. So Naruto, who was watching this match from the top of the stadium, was like, "Damn it, those two always go too far in their sparring." And he went to the hospital, and he used his water affinity to draw the water out of Mako's lungs. And he used the Naraka path to heal both of them to complete health. And in the meantime, like all the Leaf Ninjas were helping fix the stadium up for in time for Naruto and Gaara's match. And Minato went to check on his kids, and he came barging into their hospital room. And Menma and Mako were like, "Dad!" And they came running to Minato, but then Minato basically slapped both of them really hard, like backhanded them. And they were sent flying into the wall. And The nurse was like, Hokage-sama, stop! They were injured. And Minato was like, it's okay, my son healed them. And the nurse just meekly nodded, and he put an angry he set an angry glare on Menma and Mako, and he was like, "How could you two have been so stupid, using deadly jutsu like that inside the village where several civilians were watching your exam? You could have hurt people other than yourselves. I understand you two are powerful, but then what if Naruto wasn't here to heal you? You would have been severely injured and you would have spent weeks in the hospital getting better. Do you think that's worth it, all for an exam? You two are powerful, but you are unfit to be Chunin." And Menma and Mako just looked down in shame. And Minato was like, "Now you, Naruto, get ready for the next exam." And he swiftly turned and he made his way back to the Kage box. And Naruto turned to his siblings and he was like, "There's a saying that goes, with great power comes great responsibility. Make sure you remember that." And Mako and Menma just dumbly nodded and started reflecting on their actions. And as Naruto made his way back to the stands, and Hayate basically called the next match, and he was like, "Alright, now it's time for the last match of this round, Gaara versus Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." And Gaara appeared in the stadium in a sand body flicker, and Hayate turned to see where Naruto was until this entire arena started heating up, and hot winds started to fly all over the arena, and they were all wondering what was happening until they saw uh, a meteorite the size of a small elephant appear in the sky, and it was basically like burning, and it crashed into the ground, creating cracks all over the stadium, and like creating a spider web of cracks uh, surrounding it. And basically, the meteorite crumbled away to reveal Naruto. And Gaara could feel the power emanating from Naruto, and he was like, "What is this power? Mother will have his blood. I will not deny mother." And basically, he grew a bloodlusted smile on his face, and he was like, "Looks like it's time for me to give mother your blood, Uzumaki." And Naruto just calmly walked up to him, and Hayate started the match. And Gaara tried to use his sand against Naruto, but Naruto just overpowered Gaara's magnet release with his own, and the sand started obeying him, and instead of Gaara. And Gaara was like, "How dare you! I shall definitely give mother your blood now." And Naruto was like, "You want my blood?" And Gaara was like, "Of course!" And Naruto just pulled a kunai out of his pocket and slit his thumb, and he flicked his blood on Gaara's face. And since Gaara-san wasn't there to protect him, Naruto's blood literally flew straight onto Gaara's face. And Naruto was like, "There you go, you have my blood. You happy now?" And Gaara was like, "Ugh, Uzumaki!" And Naruto basically just dodged Gaara, because since Gaara had his sand, he didn't really know how to use any taijutsu or anything like that. And for Naruto was starting to feel bad for Gaara in this match, so he gave Gaara back control of his sand. And Gaara was like, "See, Uzumaki, I shall have your blood. My sand finally obeys me again." And Naruto just smirked at him as he wove a few hand signs and said, "Lava style, lava river." And a stream of lava flew from his mouth and basically hit Gaara's sand, causing it to melt and fuse together. And Gaara was like, "Not going to work, Uzumaki." And Gaara basically did some hand signs, and sand flew, like sand started raining from the air. And Naruto was like, so he's disintegrating the rocks and minerals in the ground and turning into sand, extra sand for him to use. And Gaara tried to use his sand to attack Naruto, but Naruto easily body flickered away and slammed a kick into Gaara, and he was able to kick him away. And this continued going on for a while until Gaara got fed up and he encased himself in a sand dome. And Naruto was like, that dome is pretty dense. A simple water lightning jutsu will not affect it much. I have the perfect jutsu for this. And then he basically gathered lightning in his palm, and with the other hand, he made one handed seals and shot a huge fireball into the air, and storm clouds started gathering where he was, and he basically raised his hand, which was covered in lightning, up, and a huge thunderbolt started forming into a lightning dragon, and the eye that was outside Gaara's dome of sand was basically looking at this, and Gaara inside was uh, like fearing what would happen to him if if he doesn't do something about it. But then, trusting his dome, he decided to keep turning into Shukaku, and Naruto was like, "Well, Gaara, it's over. You tried. Lightning style, Kirin!" And that lightning dragon, like faster than the speed of sound, it crashed into the dome, resulting in a huge explosion. And Guy and Lee were crying on seeing how Naruto was so full of youth, and uh, meanwhile, Team 7 and Naruto's siblings and the rest of the ninjas and even the civilians, like pretty much everyone, were absolutely amazed with the jutsu that Naruto created. And Orochimaru was like, "Ah, Naruto, you're such a better, you're a much better vessel than Sasuke-kun. I will have you." And anyways, after the smoke from the explosion cleared away, everyone could see an unconscious Gaara who was partially transformed, like only his hand had transformed into Shukaku's hand, and there was basically glass surrounding him, which was created by the extreme heat generated by the lightning dragon hitting the sand dome and melting the sand into glass. And after Hayate had gathered his thoughts again, he and like snapped out of his daze. He pronounced that Naruto was the winner, and Orochimaru was like, "Shit, the invasion! We need the One Tails!" And like in frustration, he hit his fist against the a chair, and this unfortunately for him turned out to be this signal to start the invasion. And feathers started flying, sorry, like flower petals started coming out of this, like falling from the sky, and and all the civilians started falling asleep, and a few of the Genin and academy students, and all of the academy students were asleep as well, and even a few of the Chunins. And basically everyone who was awake in the original, they stayed awake, and of course Naruto, his siblings, and Sasuke were also awake. And Naruto, knowing that Gaara was essential for the invasion, didn't give them a chance to cause Gaara to go into a tail beast transformation. So he instead used Kamui to suck away Gaara into his personal dimension. And Orochimaru was like, "Shit, no, Kabuto, why are you starting it now? We can't win this fight." And he then realized that when he hit his fist on the chair in frustration, he unconsciously like he accidentally gave the signal, and he was pretty pissed at what happened. He had been hoping for one of the Hokages to take the One Tails when it went on a rampage, so that he could take the other Hokage and fight him using his reanimated Hashirama and Tobirama. But then, as he thought of that, he realized that he no longer had any sacrifices for the reanimation. He was planning to use the three sound genin, but then all of them were killed. So Orochimaru knew now that he had no chance at all in this invasion, and he wasn't arrogant enough to assume that he somehow could take two Hokages plus Minato's children and Sasuke, and he decided to cut his losses and invade on another day. So yeah, the invasion never happens, and of course, Orochimaru uses this chance to reverse summon himself and escape before anyone can do anything, and he even summons a snake to inform Kabuto that the invasion is called off, and he basically tells Kabuto to relay this message to all the sand and sound ninjas who are about to attack, and Kabuto, understanding the predicament that Orochimaru was in, he decided to comply without asking any questions. So all of this was done, and the only problem was that the sand and the sound genin were all sorry, the sand genin and Baki were all detained because they knew about the the leaf knew about the invasion, so they decided to detain them and resolve the issue. So anyways, yeah, the invasion got cancelled. I'm sorry if you don't like this arc, with the invasion not happening and all that, but then I am going to make the next arc, like, the Sasuke retrieval arc and all that stuff, interesting, like Tsunade retrieval arc and Sasuke retrieval arc. And before you think this is going to happen, with the way I've written the story, the way I've made the story, Sasuke is not going to betray Naruto, but then he is going to still leave the village. And basically, how this is going to happen, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but then it is going to be an interesting story. I know I made Naruto like way, way too OP, but then I am still going to make the story interesting. So also after the story, like this what if is over, I'm actually going to make a sequel where you guys know how Naruto is immortal, right? So he basically lives for really long, and he gets transported into another dimension, and this is going to be the Percy Jackson and the Olympians one, and this is going to be my first crossover what if, and it's not going to be right after this, but then right after this will be a what if where Naruto was the same age as Itachi, and he became he would basically be Itachi's rival instead of Sasuke's, and he would become the sensei for Team 7, and we're going to see how the story goes from there. So yeah, after that, what if I'm going to do the crossover where he goes into the Jackson and the Olympians universe, and it is going to be pretty cool because he's going to be stronger than anyone, like even the gods and the titans. So it's going to be like cool seeing like how they react to him having so much power. So anyways, there isn't going to be like a vote on this because this is like something I want to do, and like I find the idea really interesting. So like, I'm sorry, even if you guys don't want it, I will still do it because it's just something that interests me a lot. So anyways, with that said, this part is now complete, and we will be uh, I'll be telling you what happens in the next two arcs, in the next part of this what if. So if you guys like this part, please give me a like and share this series and subscribe to my channel, and feel free to comment your thoughts about this video, and comment any ideas you have on how I should continue this series, and